What if the most dangerous man on the field wasn't Shohei Ohtani? That's the question keeping the Taiwanese coaching staff up at night. That's the question scouts are furiously debating in closed-door meetings. And that's the question that has the entire baseball world buzzing as Samurai Japan prepares to take the field in what promises to be one of the most electrifying WBC tournaments in history. But before we get to Taiwan's secret fear, before we reveal the name that has opposing analysts genuinely alarmed, there's another story that broke the internet this week. A story about loyalty. About identity. About a man who stood up in front of the cameras and said something so raw, so unexpected, so brutally honest that even the most hardened baseball veteran stopped and took notice. My heart is in Japan. 4 words. Spoken not by a Japanese player, not by a coach, not by a national hero born and raised under the Japanese flag, but by someone the world never expected to hear it from. And the reaction? Absolute shock. Stunned silence followed by an explosion of emotion from fans across Japan that rippled all the way to social media timelines around the globe. Today, we're breaking down everything. The stunning declaration that shook Samurai Japan's rally. The player Taiwan fears more than Ohtani himself. And why this WBC might just be remembered as the tournament that changed everything we thought we knew about Japanese baseball and its place in the world. Stay with us. Because this story is only getting started. To understand why the moment hit so hard, you need to understand the atmosphere surrounding Samurai Japan right now. This is not just another baseball tournament. This is a statement of national identity. Ever since Japan's triumphant WBC victory in 2023, sealed by that unforgettable Ohtani vs. Trout moment that the entire planet watched with its breath held, the expectations placed on Samurai Japan have reached almost impossible heights. Defend the title. Prove it wasn't a fluke. Show the world that Japan is not just competitive in baseball, but dominant. That weight hangs over every training session, every bullpen session, every meal in the team cafeteria. Manager Hiroshi Iwata has been navigating this pressure carefully, building team chemistry and instilling a culture of preparation and purpose. The players understand what this means. The nation is watching. So when a team rally was organized, one of those electric, emotional gatherings designed to fire up the squad and remind every player why they're here, the room was already charged with energy. These events can be powerful. They can also feel rehearsed, predictable, the same motivational speeches dressed in slightly different uniforms. And then Nutbar stood up. Now, if that name surprises you, you're not alone. Nutbar, a name that has become something of a legend in certain baseball circles, is not a figure the mainstream sports world spends much time discussing. He operates somewhat outside the traditional narrative. He is blunt where others are diplomatic. He is emotional where others are measured. He says the thing everyone is thinking but nobody dares to say out loud. And at this rally, in front of his Samurai Japan teammates, he looked around the room and delivered an opinion so honest, so unfiltered, that the air was sucked right out of the space. My heart is in Japan. On the surface, you might wonder, why is that shocking? Isn't everyone on the team supposed to feel that way? The answer is complicated. And it gets to the heart of something that has been quietly simmering in Japanese baseball culture for years. There is often an unspoken distance between players who have spent significant time in the major leagues, who have been immersed in American baseball culture, American life, American values, and the deeply traditional, deeply communal world of Japanese professional baseball. Players who cross that ocean and come back are sometimes seen as changed. As outsiders wearing familiar uniforms. There can be subtle tensions, unspoken questions about where their true loyalties lie. Nutbar has lived that experience. He has navigated those two worlds. He has felt the pull in both directions. And so when he stood up at that rally and declared, without hesitation, without qualification, without the careful diplomatic language that public figures so often hide behind, that his heart is in Japan, it landed differently than if anyone else had said it. It was personal. It was vulnerable. It was real. His teammates felt it immediately. The room, by multiple accounts, transformed in an instant. What had been a charged but somewhat formal gathering became something genuinely moving. Players who had been sitting with crossed arms and polite expressions were suddenly leaning forward. Eyes were glistening. The energy shifted from professional obligation to something that felt much more like genuine passion. And when the moment was captured and shared, as these moments inevitably are in the age of social media, the reaction from Japanese fans was overwhelming. The clip spread with the velocity of a breaking news story. Fan forums lit up. Commentators dissected every word. Talk shows dedicated entire segments to the significance of what had been said and why it mattered. Because in a tournament where the pressure to perform is immense, and where the emotional stakes are sky-high, a single honest moment of genuine feeling can mean everything. What Nutbar's declaration did, beyond generating headlines, was something far more valuable for Samurai Japan's prospects in this tournament. It gave the team permission to feel. This might sound abstract, so let me explain. Elite sports teams, particularly in Japanese culture, where stoicism and discipline are deeply valued, can sometimes operate in a mode that is technically brilliant but emotionally closed. Players execute. Players prepare. Players perform their roles with precision. But the emotional fuel that turns a good team into a great one, the fire, the desperation, the feeling that this means something beyond statistics and medals, that can sometimes get buried under all the discipline. Nutbar ripped that lid off. By being vulnerable first, he created space for everyone else to feel it too. And that, according to sports psychologists and experienced coaches, is often the difference between a team that competes well and a team that competes with an edge that is almost impossible to overcome. Yu Darvish, in his advisory role, has been quietly building toward exactly this kind of cohesion. His emphasis on understanding each other's preparation, on communication, on finding individual styles rather than blindly imitating trends, all of that is designed to create a team where every player feels seen, valued, and connected to something larger than themselves. Nutbar's moment at the rally was the emotional crystallization of everything Darvish has been working toward. It was the moment the team stopped being a collection of talented individuals and started being, in the truest sense, a unit. Taiwan scouts were paying attention. And they didn't like what they saw. Now let's talk about the bombshell that has opposing teams, and particularly Taiwan, genuinely rattled. Everyone expects Ohtani to be dominant. Taiwan's coaching staff has been preparing for Ohtani since the bracket was announced. They have studied his mechanics, his patterns, his tendencies at every count, every situation. They respect him enormously. They fear him appropriately. But they are not surprised by him, because Ohtani operates in a realm of excellence that, while extraordinary, is at least predictable in its outlines. What Taiwan did not fully anticipate was the emergence of a different player whose recent form, combined with his unique skill set, has sent their analytics team into something approaching a mild crisis. The name generating the most anxiety in Taiwan's scouting reports right now is Roki Sasaki. Sasaki, the young, right-handed pitcher from the Chiba Lotte Marines who has been making waves in Japanese professional baseball, has developed into something that advanced metrics struggle to fully capture. His signature pitch, a splitter fastball combination that arrives at elite velocity and then drops off a table at the last possible moment, has been described by some opposing hitters as genuinely unhittable when executed correctly. But it's not just the raw stuff. It's the timing. Sasaki is entering this WBC at a moment of personal peak confidence. He has been working closely within the Samurai Japan framework, absorbing the preparation philosophy that Darvish has been instilling, and the results in training have been striking. Pitching coaches who have watched him in the bullpen during camp have quietly noted that he looks sharper, more composed, and more strategically sophisticated than at any previous point in his career. Taiwan scouts have flagged him specifically. Their internal reports, according to sources close to the national team's preparation, identify Sasaki as a potential, difference-making threat in the opening game, someone who could determine the trajectory of the entire tournament before Ohtani even steps to the plate as a batter. The reasoning is straightforward: if Sasaki neutralizes Taiwan's lineup in the early innings, the psychological momentum shifts dramatically. Japan doesn't need to rely on Ohtani's heroics. The burden is distributed. And a Japan that doesn't need Ohtani to save them is a Japan that is nearly impossible to beat. Taiwan's coaches know this. Which is precisely why their preparation for the opening game has been quietly, intensely focused on solving the Sasaki puzzle before the first pitch is thrown. Taiwan is not approaching this game naively. They have a talented, experienced squad with players who have competed at the highest professional levels in both Japan and the United States. Their offensive lineup has genuine depth, and their pitching staff, while not quite at Samurai Japan's level on paper, is capable of keeping games close if everything goes right. Their strategy against Sasaki, based on available scouting intelligence, centers on two key principles. First, be aggressive early in counts. Sasaki is most dangerous when he gets ahead and can deploy his splitter with the hitter defensive. If Taiwan's batters can force him to throw his fastball in favorable counts, they neutralize his biggest weapon. Second, work deep into at-bats. Sasaki has shown some vulnerability to pitch count accumulation in the past. If Taiwan can make him throw 20 or 25 pitches per inning rather than 12 or 15, they can shorten his outing and get to the Japanese bullpen, which, while strong, is less individually intimidating. It is a logical, professional approach. And it might work against a version of Sasaki from 6 months ago. But the version of Sasaki that has emerged from Samurai Japan's training camp, the version that has absorbed Darvish's preparation philosophy, that has been sharpened by high-level bullpen sessions, that is pitching with the emotional fuel injected by moments like Nutbar's rally declaration, that version is a different proposition entirely. The improvement in his mental game alone makes him significantly harder to rattle. Hitters who try to work long counts against Sasaki now find themselves facing a pitcher who is completely comfortable in deep counts, who trusts his stuff at every point in an at-bat, and who never gives in regardless of the pressure. Taiwan is preparing thoroughly. But Samurai Japan, right now, feels like a team that is peaking at exactly the right moment. Step back for a moment and look at the full canvas of what's happening here. You have Ohtani, the greatest two-way player in the history of the sport, leading a team that is emotionally unified in a way that goes beyond talent. You have Darvish reshaping the preparation culture from the inside, bringing major league standards of data, discipline, and self-awareness to a national team context. You have young players like Sasaki catching fire at the exact moment it matters most. And you have raw, honest moments of human connection, like Nutbar standing up at a rally and saying, "My heart is in Japan," that bind it all together into something that feels genuinely special. This is not just a baseball team. This is a movement. And for Taiwan, for every team that steps onto the field against Samurai Japan in this tournament, the challenge is not simply defeating a roster of talented players. It is walking into the force field of a team that believes, completely, collectively, without reservation, that they are destined to win. That belief, when it is real rather than performed, is the most powerful force in sport. It cannot be scouted. It cannot be countered with data. It can only be met with equal belief from the other side. Taiwan will bring everything they have. They will come prepared. They will compete with pride and determination. But right now, in this moment, Samurai Japan has something that cannot be manufactured. They have a heartbeat. And it is beating for Japan. The WBC hasn't even started yet, and already the stories are writing themselves. A stunning declaration of loyalty that silenced a room and moved a nation. A young pitcher quietly emerging as the tournament's most dangerous wild card. A team coming together under the influence of legends, driven by the standard set by the greatest player in the world. Shohei Ohtani will get the headlines. He always does. And he will deserve every single one of them. But watch the full team. Watch Sasaki on the mound in that opening game. Watch how Taiwan's batters react when the splitter drops out of sight at 98 miles per hour. Watch the dugout, the energy, the belief. Because this Samurai Japan team is telling the world something important. Something beyond baseball. Our hearts are in Japan. And on the evidence of everything we've seen so far, the world had better listen.